Good evening and welcome to the April 16, 2025 regular meeting of the Holland City Council. I'm Mayor Nathan Box and I'm calling the meeting to order. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Bird.
Present.
Vreeman.
Here.
Raymond. Here. Corbin.
Here.
Soul.
Here.
Rowan.
Here.
Shea.
Here.
Schulteis.
Present.
Mayor Box.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. We're going to begin this evening's meeting as we have for many years. First with an opening prayer this evening by Council Member Shea, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we would invite you to join us. Thank you, Mr. Shea. Next item on our agenda are our consent agenda items. These are items that are considered to be fairly routine and have been reviewed by council members as part of our council packet, and they will be enacted in one motion unless a member of the public asks for an item to be removed from the consent agenda or a member of council asks to have an item removed from the consent agenda, and then it will be placed in its regular order on the regular agenda. But before I ask if anyone would like to do that, Brenda, would you please review the consent agenda items for us?
Okay. 4B, approve the minutes of the April 2, 2025 regular and closed meetings. 4C, oaths of office. 4D, a tax abatement PA 198 for Coops Incorporated, 881 Productions Place. 4E, declaration of surplus material April 3rd quarter from the Board of Public Works. 4F, grant of utility easements for Holland City Fiber Project. 4G, the Holland Energy Park Building Blowdown Discharge Alterations. 4H, a collective bargaining agreement renewal effective April 1, 2025. 4I, annual liquor license renewals. 4J, set a public hearing for May 21, 2025 for the 2025 through 30 CDBG Consolidated Plan. 4K, amend the MCIF fiscal year 2025 budget for the purchase of the pedestrian bridge at Van Raalte Farm. 4L, Syngenuity software subscription. 4M, the December financial reports. 4N, quarterly investment report. 4O, set a public hearing for Holland Energy Fund budget for May 14, 2025. 4P, declare items as surplus for transportation. And 4Q, award the fertilizer bid.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. Is there any member of the public that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none. Any member of council that would like to have an item removed from consent and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none there. What is the pleasure of council in regard to the consent agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Moved by Vreeman. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Soul. Any discussion? Seeing none. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Corbin.
Yes.
Soul.
Yes.
Rowan.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Schulteis.
Yes.
And Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item number 5, is public comment. Under the Open Meetings Act of the State of Michigan, we provide the public the opportunity to address council at our regular meetings, at our study sessions, and frankly, at every one of our board, committee, and commission meetings. It's an opportunity for the public to be able to address council and our boards and commissions on any item and any subject that you believe is important. This is one-way communication. It's an opportunity for you to speak to us. We do not answer direct questions at this time, nor do we engage in discussion. But if there's a question question that staff may be able to answer, they can circle back to you perhaps after the meeting to be able to answer that question. We do limit your time to 5 minutes. There are 3 lights on the dais in front of me. There's a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. Green light means that you're doing well on time. Yellow light means that you have 1 minute left. And the red light means that your time has expired, and we are strict about that. Each person may speak just one time, and we ask that you come to the podium and please state your name and the municipality in which you live, because it's important for us to know whether or not you're a resident of the city of Holland. And with that being said, is there anyone here who would like to address council at this time? If so, please come forward. And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Good evening. My name is Ruth Stegman, and I live in the city of Holland. I'm here to talk about trees related to the 2026 budget. So I know this is not till tomorrow night, but I'll be out of town tomorrow night. Wanted to say that right now, with all the cuts to the EPA, to NOAA, to clean energy, we still can act locally to reduce carbon by planting trees. And a really positive thing that I see is that compared to the fiscal year 2025 budget, proposed budget, and the 2026 proposed budget, that tree planting looks like it's in good shape. I am referring to page 167 on the 2026 budget. So yes to the updated performance measures, which are great, especially this idea of 75% or greater survival of planted trees with water bags being installed on all new trees planted. I love to see this. And yes to the number of projected trees planted. So that looks like 200 for both 2025, finishing out the year, and 2026, and that is much improved from the previous year, so thank you for that. I simply ask that you provide the funding needed to pay for at least those 200 trees that are named in the budget. More, if any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Ann Henriksen, Zealand. I want to begin saying hello to a woman I met who watches the city council meeting on YouTube. It was nice to meet you, Carol Polinsky, and your son. You are an encourager. Sorry, I'm sure I mispronounced your last name. We are in the middle of National April Faith Month, and this is our 3rd year of gathering people of faith, Christian faith, together to celebrate what God is doing in Holland. Any faith group can do what we are doing, and I'm sure they would be welcomed. The ideology of years living under the separation of church and state law has ended. Now our faith can liberally be expressed gradually and purposely, shifting Holland to be the unique city with a high work ethic known for generosity and love for God and one another. It all goes back to the history of Van Raldy's miraculous beginnings of Holland. He was driven by his faith, the living word, the Bible, and the Spirit of God. That same faith thrives today. It is not a case of what you believe. It is because it is a living faith. You have heard of dueling banjos and dueling pianos and even dueling swords. In Holland, the predominant Christian faith we celebrate has a dueling perspective that is sobering and daunting. It is morals versus politics. Separation of church and state no longer is necessary due to the abolishing of the Lemon Law 2022. As this slowly shifts in Holland, another battle remains. Morals and politics are the combatants. Politics displays the hostility to our expressing Christian faith. You see, there are 4 kinds of laws: moral laws, spiritual laws, ethical laws, and civil laws. Without spiritual laws and moral laws, the ethical and civil laws eventually collapse. Due to the love of God, faith, morals, and spiritual beliefs, the bedrock of Christianity in Holland will remain. National April Faith Action Organization is growing each year and influencing the city of Holland. This Saturday, we pray at Holland Park Band Shell, 9:30 to 11 o'clock. Chalk on the Walk is available on the sidewalk, 11 to 12. This is an alternative to Easter egg hunt. We provide chalk. Come and express your faith and enjoy the day. Of course, Resurrection Sunday is the following day. The newspaper will list these many opportunities. The churches will be filled. Today's Christian United in Song is April 14th, 7:30 at St. Francis de Sales Church. Redeemed, presented by Turning Point School of Dance, is at Knickerbocker, April 24th through 26th. Dr. Joshua West from David Wilkinson's Ministries Cross and the Switchblades will be at Lakeshore House of Prayer, 813 Lincoln Avenue, April 25 to 26 at 7:30, the 27th at 10 o'clock. Holland will be amazed at this May 1st at 5:30 p.m. Local businesses have supported the National April Faith Action Organization to host the National Day of Prayer as we pray to reset the governments. This family meal is geared for young people who will be the future governments of our country. As the City of Holland Council, you do not want to miss this 300-plus people gather to pray for you, Lansing and Washington, D.C. Ticket sales end tomorrow on Eventbrite. The Holland Color Guard will respectfully post the colors. The national anthem will be sung by 13-year-old Mei Lee and her father, Joel Studebaker. A delicious buffet will be served, and worship, prayer, and message follows. We are pleased, Mayor Box, that you will, for the third year, proclaim National April Faith Month and National Day of Prayer in today's declaration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
My name is Adam Devereaux, and I'm a resident of the City of Holland. I moved here about 22 years ago, although I grew up in Zealand, so I wasn't exactly a transplant. And this is the community that I've raised my 3 sons in. You know, growing up, I was blessed that my parents brought me to museums and were involved in organizations like the Zealand Historic Society, something that I've continued with my sons. You know, museums helped expand my understanding of the world and my place in that world. And it's something that I'm now passionate about history and its ability to connect and ground younger generations to their world and community. You know, it's something that seems more important than ever at this time. And the reason I mention my roots in this community is I'm proud of this community and its history, and I'm excited to be supporting an organization that's helping tell that story through joining the board of directors with the Holland Museum. And I've had the opportunity to learn about the Holland Museum, and I like to share some of those things that I've learned. Early on, I came to realize that the Holland Museum is like an iceberg. You know, there's more that's going on under the surface than you can see readily from above. It's far more than a building. It's a team of passionate professionals that care about our community and its stories. And for nearly 40 years, they've been a steward of those collective stories, diligently collecting and preserving our local history. This commitment is reflected in its prestigious American Association of Museums accreditation, and that's a mark of excellence that we should all be proud of. This success didn't happen in a vacuum. You know, it was built upon critical partnerships, especially the longstanding relationship with the City of Holland and other local municipalities. It's led to significant accomplishments like the museum finding its home in the historic post office building, taking on stewardship of the historic homes, providing access to researchers, preserving and hosting important municipality resources like the city archives. And we simply wouldn't have the museum today without this teamwork. However, as we look to the future and at the present, we also need to acknowledge that there's changing realities. The funding landscape for cultural institutions is shifting. The Institute of Museum and Library Services and the National Endowment of Humanities was recently defunded by executive order. The National Endowment of Arts is likely to follow. These agencies provide funding to museums, including the Holland Museum. And this comes at a time when many historical organizations are having challenges with their budgets and fiscal situation. You may have seen recently with the Zealand Historic Society, there were some articles about that and going to the city and having some challenges as well. You know, our museum isn't immune, from my perspective. one of the things I've come to realize is that really the last decade has kind of been one of significant financial limitations, in part due to reductions in funding provided by the various local municipalities to the Holland Museum based on the realities that existed in funding 10, 12 plus years ago. Those limitations aren't just numbers on paper. They already have tangible effects on the museum's ability to serve Holland to its fullest potential. We see it in constraints on public operating hours, challenges in finding adequate space to host the many school and educational groups, eager to learn, growing pressure of responsibility, caring for an ever-expanding collection, which is now over 100,000 priceless artifacts in fairly limited space. And our staff, the dedicated museum staff, are doing incredible work, but their hands are often tied by these resource constraints, preventing them from implementing even more programs and resources. And I think further cuts to those services would really be a negative spiral that could lead to really poor outcomes. And I do want to acknowledge the wonderful community response recently to fundraising efforts that has thankfully had a really positive impact on immediate financial pressures for the remaining months of the current fiscal year. And we're very grateful for that outpouring of support, but it doesn't resolve the underlying projected shortfalls in upcoming fiscal years. And the current path, frankly, looks increasingly unsustainable. And we can look to examples within other municipalities, such as the Tri-Cities Museum in Grand Haven, where millages involving multiple municipalities provide stable funding. Other examples are like the Grand Rapids Public Museum and what's happening in Muskegon. And these examples suggest that sustainable futures often involve public and private structures and partnerships. The museum would not be where it is without the city's critical partnership. That foundation is undeniable and deeply appreciated. But with the changing circumstances that we're facing, I think the nature of those partnerships may need to evolve for many organizations. So I want to leave you with a question, which is, how will the city and this council help ensure that the critical institution is not lost, and what is the best way to partner in developing a sustainable plan for the future of our history? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time?
Hey,
And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
what's the last part?
Your municipality, where you live.
Oh, I live in, not here. Well, I used to.
What city do you live in?
Holland.
Okay, thank you.
Mackenzie. My name's Mackenzie. I just wanted to say that the homeless people in this town and all the tent cities that they build and stuff like that, everybody always tears them down. It doesn't really matter if you take it down, they're gonna find a new spot. So my idea is please make a spot that they can go. Now, if the mission were to be a little bit more merciful on these people, then we wouldn't be having these problems. Just something to think about. It's gotta be somewhere that they can go. Otherwise, you're gonna still have the same problem over and over again. Have a good day.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Good evening, honorable members of City Council. My name is Orlando Estrada, born and raised here. So, I've been talking to neighbors about some 3 main points about what's important to them, regardless if I'm elected or not, because we all live in the same city. It's a team effort. And I was using ChatGPT, and I was thinking about, okay, homelessness. If we could fix it right now overnight, we would obviously do it, but it doesn't work like that. But one thing I want to bring the attention to the council is human trafficking behavior. Now, according to ChatGPT and talking to some people who have been in an unfortunate situation, what does that look like? It looks like this. Luring someone with a false promise, such as a job, modeling, acting, maybe even a job or career. Targeting their vulnerability because they're trying to get out of a bad spot. They have nowhere to live. Maybe someone has a basement to build for them to stay in. And then they build trust. Maybe they want to get in an alleged romantic relationship, use them that way. Manipulation, take advantage of people's poor situation. And as I go on, it talks about coercion, it talks about debt bondage, shaming and guilting. I would really hate to see somebody be in a bad spot, trusting an alleged maybe minister, politician, community leader that says, oh, I got a basement. And probably doesn't know there's probably hidden cameras down there or Maybe it's just kind of weird because they feel like they have nowhere place to go. It's not good. And again, I'm not here to accuse anybody of anything. I just been given some really sensitive information, and I think it'd be great to have some type of conversation about the behaviors that look around our community, because we are a safe community and we're going to stay that way, and we can be even safer. Another thing I'd like to address the council is it'd be kind of cool to have a new ordinance around here. Just putting this out there, not going to force somebody to do anything, obviously. I would like to call it anti-Murphy's Law. There's some people out there that are, they're bullies, or maybe they're a Karen, I don't know, that like to do false reporting on their neighbors. Holding accountability, maybe that's having an ordinance that outlaws or details what that looks like, so that way people don't have to be worried about being judged or can just live their life. The other thing I would like to address is I learned recently that fluoride is now outlawed in the state of Utah. And apparently, it sounds like fluoride could be a neurotoxin. Now, I'm not a medical expert, but I did look online, and I noticed that the National Library of Medicine has some things that refer to how it may actually harm some people's mental ability, if you will. So, just want to make it really clear that I'm not really here to poke at anybody. I'm really over the past. People can make their assumptions about me. But I think right here really means well. I've heard some things, I've seen some things, and to me, it's really a team effort. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great April month, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
My name is Yazlen Ochoa, and I live in Holland.
My name is Kai Gracia, and I lived in the Holland Township.
Wonderful to have both of you here. We just want to make sure it's clear that since there are two of you up there, if you're both going to speak, it's just 5 minutes total for the two of you. All right, great. Thank you.
Mayor and members of City Council, thank you for your time. As we strive to connect and grow the City of Holland with the wider world, we have become aware of the ever-growing diverse populations of people coming in contact with and contributing to our community. To ensure that all individuals feel welcome and informed, one important step we can take is to improve our welcoming signage. As student representatives on the International Relations Commission, we acknowledge that this process is labor-intensive and can be a long process with many opinions. In the future, the welcoming signage located on 8th Street and Michigan Avenue will be updated. When that time comes, we invite you to consider the following. Our city's Tulip Times Festival celebrates Holland's Dutch roots, having 500,000 attendees and a significant amount of tourists from around the world. In 2021, despite COVID-19, Windmill Island welcomed 142,000 visitors, not only from across the United States, but as well as over 20 countries. Today, through its student demographics, Holland Public Schools represents 35 countries, and Hope College represents 36 countries. As our community continues to evolve, it is important to honor not only Holland's Dutch roots, but also the rich new cultures brought by our diverse residents and visitors.
Our city's original native tribes, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Chippewa, welcomed the Dutch by generously sharing their land. Just as kindness and respect were shown, we carry that same spirit by welcoming people worldwide. We invite you to consider Holland's legacy of being a welcoming community for all people. Understanding that this process is extensive, upon completion, we hope to return and visit and see welcoming signage representative Holland in its changing demographics. As you begin this process, we request that the youth representatives of our diverse populations have a voice in this process to help create a vibrant world-class community where people can work together, collaborate, celebrate, and realize their dreams. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda, item number 9, written petitions and communications. In addition to providing the public the opportunity to address council in person during our council meetings, we do also have an email address where you can send written communications to council members, and that is publiccomment@cityofholland.com. Again, publiccomment@cityofholland.com. And when we receive those in between our regular meetings, we then do accept them into the record at the immediately following regular meeting. And we do have one written communication at this time, and I would entertain a motion from council to accept that public comment into the record.
Moved.
Moved by Byrd. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Soul. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, item 12, Echo 6.1, Finance, Proposed Fiscal Year 2026 Budget for Review and to set a public hearing for May 14, 2025. Mr. Van Beek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I will point out that Finance Director Lynn McCammon is here, so that if you have questions at this stage, you certainly can ask them. However, I'll point out and I'll just make a few comments. Council is all aware, the viewing public or those attending here may not be aware, that we are about to, when we close this meeting tonight, to go into study session. And tonight and tomorrow night, I would expect we're all going to spend several hours together going through the budget. So the action tonight is only to set the public hearing, but I think a few important things to lay out for people that I think council knows, but so other people also know. First of all, I think it's important that people are aware of where to find the budget documents. So on here, you can see basically, and hopefully this is projected for people at home also. You can go to the city website, the main landing page there, and Mallory put out there where you click on agenda and minutes. And then under the schedule of meetings, you're going to be looking for tonight, the April 16, 2025 meeting. And then you'll see item 12E 6.1. That's where we are right now. And you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different attachments that probably provide, all told, I'm going to guess easily over 500 pages of documentation and information. So I would encourage anyone that wants to do some research, that will give you a lot of information that I would encourage people to go out and see. Now, I understand that most people probably aren't going to do that. So I will specifically highlight the one that I think is something that I'm very proud of our team for putting together, and that's what we call the Budget in Brief document. And that's 12 pages, I think, that we got it down to, Lynn, or we'll call it 12. Yeah. That just gives a higher level overview, but yet gives the key information that I think the viewing public would be interested in. And again, while council is going through this in a great amount of detail in the next 2 nights, ultimately this will come back to a public hearing with the action that you're taking tonight, for a public hearing for the public to have input on that. And then we'll have a recommendation for council that night to potentially, and we would encourage to take action as outlined by the charter. I will just give an overview. Sorry, council, you'll probably hear a version of this again in however many minutes before we get up there. But we've kind of developed a system, but more importantly, we've developed kind of the idea of a theme that we put around our budgets. And this year, the suggested theme is focus on financial and organizational stability. And I say that from 2 perspectives. Organizationally, the number of very large projects that we've done, quite frankly, year after year after year after year, has been intense. And at some point, you can't continue to keep up that rhythm and cadence. And then financial stability, and this comes as no surprise to council, where we have signaled through our long-term financial forecast for many years that this year that you're talking about, that would start on July 1 of this year and the following year, are the tightest years that we're going to have in a long time. And that's just structurally for different reasons. So we knew these years were coming, and we've taken many actions to prepare for those, but it doesn't change the fact that really from a staff perspective, we're recommending that particularly this next fiscal year that we're going to be reviewing is really taking a look at making sure that we maintain, sustain, and achieve stability. I will just say from a budget perspective that we have a budgeted use of $305,300 of budget stabilization. Let me describe what that means. As a local government, we are required to have a balanced budget. I don't have to say much. There's a lot of entities that, of federal government, maybe for example, that doesn't have a balanced budget. We don't have a choice. We have to have a balanced budget. Use of budget stabilization is a very intentional, appropriate, and planned for use where we're using money that we've set aside in prior years for a year just as such as what we're entering. So even though in one way you look at it, our expenses are less than our revenue, say that the other way around. Our revenue is less than our expenses. We have planned for and we're using budget stabilization and what we're recommending to you to make that balance. That's one. I will tell you that we did not recommend to you every budget request and personnel request that was submitted by the departments. And I will tell you also that the departments, because this is no surprise to them too, many of them wanted to ask for stuff and they didn't submit those requests. And we'll get into more of that over the next 2 nights. I will also point out there is a lot of uncertainty currently with federal economy, grant funding, state revenue sharing. I love that term. You all know that. Personal property tax, lawsuits, the Headley item, which you identified is really your top priority that we need to address. I will say all of those would be in the negative column. There's a positive column that we're hoping for, but is road funding, which we're really hoping that will stabilize that area. So I think it's appropriate, right? And my job tonight is to just set and make sure the public knows what we're doing the next 2 nights, the process that we've already gone through, what we're going to be talking to you the next 2 nights on, and prep you for May 14. And with that, even though we talked about a lot of different things, Dave Koster is here. The BPW budget is also part of what you're going to look at tonight, and he's going to talk to you more about that. Again, we'll get in more detail, and the only thing before you tonight is to set the public hearing. Thank you,
Keith.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Questions for staff at this point? What is the pleasure of council in regarding to setting the public hearing for May 14, 2025? Moved by Schulteis. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Soul. Any discussion? Seeing none. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Okay, Freeman.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Corbin.
Yes.
Soul.
Yes.
Rowan.
Yes.
Shay.
Yes.
Schulteis.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 13, communications from the city manager, Mr. Van Beek.
I will defer as I have a feeling that you'll hear more from me tonight and tomorrow, and you get sick of my voice sometimes, so.
All right. I think that's a first. Item 14, mayoral appointments and communications from the mayor, mayoral appointments to city boards and commissions. I do have an appointment this evening. It is a recommendation that the city council approve the appointment of Nathan Slower to the Neighborhood Improvement Committee for a term expiring June 30, 2025. And I would be looking for a motion in that regard.
So moved.
Moved by Raymond. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Vreeman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And then I do have a proclamation this evening in regard to the National Day of Prayer. Whereas we recognize the vision of our founders' understanding that religious freedom of expression was fundamental in the formation of our great nation. And whereas these freedoms have helped us to create and sustain a nation of remarkable religious vitality and diversity across the generations. And whereas the United States of America recognizes devout persons from every nation have come to America seeking the freedom to worship free from persecution. And whereas we acknowledge our local history is closely bound to the privilege granted by our Constitution as early settlers in Holland, Michigan, under the leadership of Albertus Christian Van Raalte, came to Holland to find the freedom to express their faith according to their conscience. And whereas prayer has always been an integral part of American life in every city, town, and rural community across America, people of every faith and religious denomination gather to worship according to their faith in churches, synagogues, temples, and mosques. And whereas people of faith lift our voices and hearts in prayer of thanksgiving for the blessings of freedom. And whereas in times of crisis, we pray for courage, strength, wisdom, protection, and assistance to better serve our community. And whereas we pray for peace in our communities across America and nations who are facing challenges to their way of life. And whereas we confront the crises and challenges of world today, and we call upon the power of prayer to provide courage and uplift us for the work ahead. And whereas the National Day of Prayer, and every day, we unite with purpose and resolve and recommit ourselves to the core freedoms that help define our nation and, by extension, our community. And whereas we celebrate blessing that we exercise our convictions freely, no matter our faith or beliefs. And whereas let us find in our prayers the determination to overcome adversity, rise above our differences, and come together as one to meet in this moment of our history. Now therefore, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of the City of Holland, Michigan, and members of the Holland City Council call on residents to reaffirm and celebrate the role of prayer in our community, and to honor the religious diversity of our great nation on the National Day of Prayer, celebrated on May 1, 2025, and encourage our residents to join in prayer in their own manner, seeking strength from God to face the problems of today, requesting guidance for goodwill among all people, and giving thanks for the rich blessings that our community and our nation have enjoyed throughout our history. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland, the 16th day of April, 2025, Mayor Nathan Box. And that is all I have this evening. Next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I believe you may have missed an item unless I was really lost there for a second.
Do I have another appointment?
Oh, did we do the appointment?
I did.
Oh, you were so efficient. Now look.
I did. I'm sorry. You were.
I
so
was
taken
still
back
rattled by you giving me a hard time.
That's all right. That's all right. Yes, we did do the appointment. We did do that already. Next item on the agenda: appointments, motions, and communications from council members. Mr. Corbin, I believe you have something this evening.
Yes, Your Honor. It is recommended the City Council approve the appointment of George Benitez and David Bauer as an alternate to the Board of Public Appeals. Term expires June 30th, 2026 and June 30th, 2025 respectively. And to the removal of Haley Savala from the Board of Appeals effective October 1, 2024. And that's only because she's moved out of the area.
All right. And so you'll be looking for a motion in that regard?
Yes.
So moved.
Moved by Rowan. Is there support? Support by Sol. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other motions, communications from council members? Seeing none, there's just one motion I would entertain at this time.
Move to go into study session or close and then to
Would you like to adjourn first?
Well, we adjourn then.
Sure. All right. A motion to adjourn for Mr. Vreeman. Is there support? Support by Raymond? All those in favor say aye. Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Quincy.